Acclaimed chef Matt Stone from Oakridge Restaurant and Wine in the Yarra Valley is in the kitchen with me today. I love your cooking, you know that.
Oh, thank you.
I've been following you for a while. Your food is exceptional because you use ingredients to the best of their capability. I guess nothing goes to waste.
Absolutely.
What are you going to be doing today?
We're going to do a little chicken broth with an old bread dumpling. So we're using some leftover sourdough bread, could be leftover chicken bones, to make a really wholesome, just delicious meal. Do you want to start by cutting up these chicken wings for me? So we're using the wings today because this is kind of like a express version of a chicken broth because it can take a long time. So we're just going to break the wings down just so they roast nice and evenly, and the more caramelisation we can get, the better flavour we'll have.
Yeah. Matt, you're absolutely right. These are so cheap and the results are second to none because there is so much flavour in it.
The bones are a bit smaller than the rest of the frame, so they will cook a lot quicker. So we're looking at about a 2.5 hour cook time on this broth, as opposed to, using whole frames is more like a 4 to 6 hour sort of turnaround.
Yeah, right. Talk to me about your ethos on food. I think this is a really wonderful, unique thing that all cooks, not even just chefs, but cooks at home should be living by.
Absolutely. Well, we have a saying that waste is a lack of imagination. So we really try to use everything that we possibly can. And I think if we look historically at food, everything was always really used, and we've become really wasteful and really greedy, I think. So it's really important to look back at the past and see how we used to cook. And often these are the most delicious dishes as well. So
it's stuff that evokes memory too, broths. Everyone has their own way of doing the broth.
Absolutely. So this broth in the end, we're going to thicken it with a little bit of arrowroot. We'll sort of apply that little technique as well.
Yeah, because I think sometimes with a broth, you spend a bit of time doing it and you go, there's not that much flavour, it is quite watery. It's because somewhere along the line, either you haven't cooked your chicken wings off long enough.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time, and often you've got to reduce it by like half as well after the cooking time to really intensify the flavour. So by doing this method and getting a really nice caramelisation on these wings, you want it to taste like you're drinking a roast chicken is ideal, right?
Nice. So talk to me about the vegetables that you choose for your broth.
We're just using more whiter sort of veggies here. At the end of the day, we want it to taste of chicken, not vegetables too much, but these sort of celery, onion and fennel will just help to accentuate that chicken flavour really nicely.
All right, Maddie, I have finished the chicken, just cutting it into 3, including the wingtip, because there's so much flavour in that too, right?
Most definitely. So we'll get them straight into the oven, about 180 degrees. We want to move them around every sort of 8 to 10 minutes.
No oil, no salt?
Maybe just the smallest amount of oil, just so it doesn't stick too much. A lot of oil will come out of the skin on the wings there when they're cooking, so we'll use that later on in the dumpling as well.
Okay, nice one. All right, I'll get that into the oven.
So we'll just use the top of the fennel bulb here. We can save the rest for a salad or for roasting. So we'll sweat them down on a low heat whilst the wings are roasting away and get the flavour happening.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So we've just thrown in some fresh bay leaves, some fresh thyme, just some nice hard herbs that are going to add a little sort of background flavour and just really sort of just build on the levels of flavour that we've got going on.
Nice. I can smell the chicken. It's almost ready.
Yeah, it smells great. Perfect.
Beautiful little chicken wings.
So they're caramelised really nicely, so that's going to cook into the stock and give us that real depth of flavour that we're looking for. So I'll get these straight in. I'm going to reserve the fat from this to go into the dumpling mix. So do you want to crack 4 eggs for me?
Sure,
and we can get that on.
So we're not only making the most divine broth, but we're also going to make dumplings for it. So it's a meal in itself, a truly winter dish.
Absolutely, and it's the dumplings are using leftover bread that we've turned into breadcrumbs as well, so we're not wasting any of that bread.
I 100% agree with you. Bread is something that I always have little scraps of, and when it dries out, it makes the best breadcrumbs.
And every cuisine in the world has an element of bread in it, right? So there's generally some element of chicken soup and bread around in there, so this is sort of really relatable to everyone.
Yep, sure. Nice.
So that's all really nice flavour. It's going to help to keep the dumplings nice and moist when they cook.
Nice. Okay.
So I'll just give this a little stir now, just to sort of mix the vegetables and the chicken together. We'll pour in some water, we'll bring that up to a boil. We're going to add about 5 litres, and in that sort of cooking time, we'll probably lose about 1 litre just through evaporation. So we're looking for like a 50-50 ratio of liquid to the ingredients in there as well.
Okay, so in this bowl, we have the eggs, we've got the chicken fat. What else goes in here?
If you could just add a little bit of water to that as well, and we'll start with the dry ingredients. So we've got the sourdough breadcrumbs. Throw them in. We've also got some dried herbs here as well. So we've got some dried parsley and some dried dill.
Great.
Just going to throw them in. These are all very common pantry ingredients. We've got some black pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder.
Sure. Which already has a slight amount of salt in it.
It does, yeah, that's right. And then some baking powder just to lighten up the dumpling a little bit as well. So we'll throw that in. And if you want to add the wet, give that a nice mix. And it's important to give this about 20 minutes in the fridge, so it'll just sort of sit and they'll sort of mould together, and we'll get a lovely little dumpling from there.
Fabulous. We'll mix that, get that in the fridge, and once our stock is completely cooked down, we'll strain it and then cook these gorgeous little dumplings in our chicken broth.
Yeah, awesome. Here we go. So as this stock comes up, we're just going to give it a little stir, just very gently on the surface, just to push all of those foamy bits to the side, and then just scrape them off.
Okay.
Right, so the dough's ready to go. I'll just show you how to roll one out quickly.
Yeah.
You just kind of want a nice sort of cherry tomato sort of size, and just kind of make sure you press it together so there's no air bubbles inside.
Okay. Oh,
Just like
nice.
that. So we've strained off the broth, we've put it back onto the heat, brought it up to a boil, and I'm just going to add this arrowroot. So it's just going to thicken it nicely and give a really nice sort of body and cling to the soup. So it's just mixed with a bit of water.
If you wanted, could you use some corn flour?
Absolutely.
Same.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Nice. I never do this with my broth, adding a thickening agent, but why not?
It just kind of makes it sort of cling to your mouth really nicely. It's just a really good way of doing it, I think.
Yeah.
So we're just going to add a few little seasonings to this as well, just very common household ingredients, just a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, just a couple of teaspoons. You know, we could add just salt, but what this does is kind of adds a bit of colour to the broth, so it looks a little bit nicer, and it's just a few more levels of flavour. So
While we've got our soy here, what I found interesting, you told me this a long time ago, you are so insistent on having products that are from the region, the Yarra Valley, close to your restaurant, that you won't even use a soy sauce that comes from somewhere else. You make your own soy sauce.
we do, yeah. It's a big team effort and it takes a lot of time. I think we've got a batch of soy on currently that's at about 200 days in fermenting. So it's so far that's looking like our best one yet.
Truly local, truly sustainable.
So this broth's lovely and thick, nice and shiny, seasoned up beautifully. So the dumplings are rolled out. We're just going to throw them straight into some boiling water, about 4 to 5 minutes, and we're good to plate up.
Looking forward to tasting this one. Wow, Matt, they've really doubled in size, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. They've puffed up nicely, and that's from the baking powder. It just makes them get that little bit of rise, which is nice.
And they've held their shape well.
They've held their shape. You passed it with the rolling there. That's fine.
You?
So 4 or 5. We might do 5. Just put another one on the top there.
Oh, and then the mother broth. We've been waiting
so
for this.
It's got beautiful colour. It smells amazing.
It's true. I mean, a little bit of soy has deepened the colour of it.
Absolutely, and just bringing a really deep, rich sort of flavour. And this is completely optional, but just at the very end, just a little grating of parmesan. So we're just going to just grate a little bit of that on the top.
I'm always up for a bit of parmesan. Yum all.
And that's it.
Well, we've made an effort to make this beautiful broth from scratch, the dumplings from scratch. We must have a taste of this.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna dig in. I will probably burn my tongue, but it's going to be totally worth it. Ah, it is hot. I think the term we use is really warms the heart.
Warms the heart, that's
Isn't
right.
that what we said at the beginning? It's
Cuddle
spot
from
on.
the inside.
Oh, a cuddle from the inside. It's a cuddle from the inside. Maddie, I absolutely love that. That, for me, is the ultimate winter dish.
It
Just
is.
adore it.
That's
Thank
good. Thank you.